That's a fantastic question. I think you're touching at the core of how do you translate that experience of being there into film or into a piece of content or into some sort of media that you would consume.
Like, you didn't know what was going to happen, but you knew if I don't do this, I'm going to regret it. Just being there will provide opportunities for me. What makes you decide which stories are worth capturing?
One of the big things I discovered whenever I was filming Turtle Beach, putting yourself in an environment and understanding what's going on is way different than intellectually knowing what's going on. Feeling it
Hmm.
and being there and experiencing it and actually sort of living it and embodying it can transform you in so many different ways than just knowing, oh, this is a problem. Even watching a film and having that emotional reaction of, oh, we need to save the Amazon doesn't quite do it in the same way that actually going and seeing this massive illegal logging camp with ruts cut into the ground from the heavy equipment and roads that were cut specifically to move the saws in. Like that's way more impactful from a guttural level. I feel like in order for me to tell effective stories and educate people effectively, I need to experience that. I need to go and be there. And one of the things that just sealed the deal for me as far as signing up for that trip and going down there was Paul kind of touched on that on one of the podcasts he was on. Is he was talking about that's why they do these expeditions and sort of sort of the ecotourism way of fundraising is bringing people to these areas and actually showing them has a multiplier effect way more than just talking about it or raising money. And I thought this is necessary for me to go down here. It's not just I want to go down there and have fun. I mean, I did have a lot of fun. It was really cool, but it was a much deeper level of like I need to actually go down there and see the destruction firsthand, and that will give me the proper context to really try and communicate this and tell the story and have that multiplier effect that you don't get from just knowing about it. You got to go there and see it.
Yeah, witnessing is such an impactful way of bringing about that information to your audience. We all know those images of the plastic on the beaches. But the moment when I was there in Albania, where we had to do a river cleanup, and I actually stood there, like, it was that same gut reaction that you're talking about. So I I can completely agree with that. It just changes something in you. And you can see it on a screen, but seeing it in real life is just something completely different. What I'm really interested in, though, is exactly that. How do you translate that feeling that you had? For example, I'm thinking of Seaspiracy. There's a lot of controversy about that. As a marine biologist, I'm just gonna put that in the middle. What I cannot deny is the way that they told the story created that visceral reaction. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, because this is where I think the mix is between the journalism that you talked about and the filmmaking.
That's a fantastic question. I think you're touching at the core of how do you translate that experience of being there into film or into a piece of content or into some sort of media that you would consume. And I don't think you do. In my experience, there's no way to accurately take that and translate it
Mhm.
into I'm sitting at home on my couch with a computer screen and 1,000 miles between me and what's actually happening versus actually being there. And that's where the concept of impact, I think, really informed the way I make content because you have to get people involved. You have to get people there. And you can't take everybody to the Amazon and you can't take everybody to, the South Pole, but you can take people to a local forest and show them that this is going to be gone if we don't make our voices heard. Or this river with these beavers and this eagle nest is going to be cut down and there's going to be a shopping strip put here or there's going to be a highway put here. Those sorts of local efforts I think impact people in a similar way as taking somebody to the Amazon. Maybe not as much or dramatic, but you can see the impact that's taking place and that gets people fired up. to be involved in something. And I think that's what we really need. I mean, you look at the younger generation, you look at the depression, the anxiety, and especially in Western countries, and it's sort of a lack of purpose. It's like, what are we doing? Like, we get up and we go to work and we go to the grocery store, and like, what's the point of all this? To me, that's what climate change and conservation really represents. Is the point is having a livable planet. The point is getting involved and pushing back against these systems that are blind, that are chugging along like a train. And if we don't do anything, if we don't stand in its way, if we don't put a wedge, it's just going to run us over. You can do that on a global scale. You can do that on a local scale. It all matters. And I think a great place to start is on a local scale.
I think it's a little bit poetic of how these systems, the systems that made sure that we didn't have to feel purpose, have created the issues that are bringing purpose back right in our face, whether we like it or not. I think I just want to finish this podcast the way that we started it. What is the role of a filmmaker in climate change?
I think the role of a filmmaker in climate change is to understand that you are not the only solution. That if you put a wonderfully directed shot film out there, that is going to have impact and that's going to spread awareness. But we need everybody. We need songwriters, we need scientists, we need politicians. And I think approaching your storytelling and approaching your techniques in a way that you understand that context, I think is what we need more of. And so the role of a filmmaker is the same role as a marine biologist, is to get out there and be curious and educate yourself and try and get people involved.